guys, my name is Jordan. In case this is your first time on my channel, I am so excited that you are here today with me because today I'm going to be talking about my favorite books in 2018. I don't use a star system, so I'm not going to be like, all of these books are 5 out of 5 stars. These are just the books that I really loved this year and I just really want to talk about. Oh, also, if you're wondering like what order I'm going through, like if like the first one was my favorite or I'm working up to my favorite, all of these are just books that like I equally love, and so I'm not really going in like a, oh, I love this one more and this one I love less or something like that. I'm not really going like that. I'm just going in like how I read them throughout the year. So yeah, so without further ado, let's get into the video. The first book on my list, I actually don't have it on my shelves because my mom is currently borrowing it, but it's Let's Pretend This Never Happened by Jenny Lawson. And I actually read Furiously Happy, which is her second book, before I read Let's Pretend This Never Happened, and it was really nice to just get that like introduction to her like family and her life that I didn't get when I read Furiously Happy. But I'm sure that, you know, Let's Pretend This Never Happened is probably just a good first book to read from Jenny Lawson. The next book that I want to talk about is Gemina by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. This is the second book in the Illuminate series, and oh my gosh, guys, it was so good. Like, I remember getting Gemina and just like blasting through it because it was so good. And like, not sure if you can tell, but these books are pretty big. A book has to be good to get through like a long book like this, like to just like really like blast through it. The next book that I want to talk about is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli, and I actually read this before I watched the movie. Like, literally the only reason why I picked this book up was because Love, Simon was coming out, and I was like, well, I guess it's gotten to movie status popular, so like I guess I should give it a go. And I'm so happy that I did, because when I picked it up in the store, when I was still like debating whether it was actually worth the buy, I remember reading the first page and just being like, oh my gosh, I need this. Why haven't I read this? This is so good. I need this. I need to read this like right now. And it was so good, and it's still so good. Like, I can see myself going back and rereading this book, and it'll still make me like laugh, and it'll make me sad at the right moments, and just, oh, so good. Also, Love, Simon was a really good movie adaptation. The next book that I want to talk about is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Oh my gosh, this book is so good. As you can tell, this book is like quite short, and also like if you look at like the words on the pages, if I can open it, let's get to a page. There's not a lot of words on each page, so it doesn't take like a long time to read it, but I read this book in like 2 hours. Like, it was so good. I could not put it down. I was just like reading it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. This is so good. And like, about the halfway point, that's when I started like crying, and it was just like, I cried until like the end, and it was so good, guys. I've started so many Patrick Ness books, but I've never finished one until I got to A Monster Calls, and there was just something about A Monster Calls that was just like, I gotta finish. I got it. It's so good. Oh my gosh. Whoa. I don't know like why it's so good, and like the rest of his books I've never managed to like finish, but it is. So you should go read it because it's good. It's probably Patrick Ness's best book. Go read it. The next book that I have to talk about is Obsidio by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff, and I read this like maybe about like a week or so after Obsidio came out. And I think that I actually made a book talk about this, but it never got uploaded because like something happened with the file. I don't know. There were some tech issues involved. But oh my gosh, I think this was like one of the first books that I ever made like a book discussion video about, and it was super long and I had no idea what I was doing. Oh. I know you guys have never, like, you'll never see that because I'm pretty sure I deleted all the footage. But, whoa, I just remembered that. Okay, so, anyways, Obsidio. Let's talk about the actual book now. Obsidio I really loved, but compared to the rest of the books in the Illuminate series, I definitely feel like Obsidio is just like a little bit lower than them. For some reason, this book was just harder for me to get through for the rest of them. Like the rest of the books, I read in like maybe like 1 to 3 days. And Obsidio, I actually took on like a trip, so like I wasn't driving. I was like in like a bus, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna have all this time to read, and I'm gonna have like 8 hours, and and it's just gonna be great, and I'll finish this book, and then I'll be like, I need a new book, or I need a new Illuminate series book, and it's gonna be great. And literally, I got back home from the trip, and I still had so many pages to read. It was just kind of a little bit sad and disappointing that this book wasn't as it didn't keep me hooked as well as the rest of the books, but it was still really, really good. The characters were really good, and by the time I got to about the midway point, I was just like, no, gotta finish, gotta truck through, and I was like, okay, this is definitely an Illuminate series book. The next book that I want to talk about is Without Merit by Colleen Hoover. Now, at the time of finishing this book, I loved it. Like, I loved it so much. Like, I really wanted to go out and buy every single one of Colleen Hoover's books because I was like, this book was so good. The rest of her books have to be. But then, like, maybe about a couple hours later, I was like, now that I'm thinking about it, there were some issues in that book that, like, I'm not exactly okay with anymore, and, like, I don't really love it that much. But I want to acknowledge that at one point, I really, really loved this book. But where I'm at now, I still feel like there are some things that need to be worked out in this book, and I probably won't ever go back and reread it. The next book that I read was History Is All You've Left Me by Silvera. I love this book. This is my favorite Silvera book if we don't count What If It's Us, which is the book that he did with Becky. I love this book so much. I love it so much. I love it so much. Go read it if you haven't read it. It's so good. The next book that I want to talk about is We Are the Ants by Shaun Hutchinson. And then someone on BookTube, whose name I cannot remember at this moment, for some reason, don't know why, I'll put it on the screen. I should remember her name. Don't know why I don't. But she is always talking about Shaun Hutchinson, and finally one day I was just like, I guess I'll give it a chance because I trust your opinion and I value what you have to say, and I don't feel like you would give me a bad book recommendation. And just, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I listened because it was so good. Literally, there was one point that I was like, We Are the Ants may be my favorite book. Like, it may outrank Fangirl. And it has been so long since I've even considered, like, displacing Fangirl and giving another book the title of favorite book. It's been a little while, though, since I've read We Are the Ants, and Fangirl still has its spot. The next book that I want to talk about is They Both Die at the End by Silvera. I love this book, and it took me forever to finally get my hands on it because right after I finished History Is All You Left Me, I wanted nothing more than to read They Both Die at the End. But like, I went to Barnes & Noble's. I think I went to Barnes & Noble's like 3 times. I went to Barnes & Noble so many times just hunting for this book, and it wasn't there. And so I would just like come home and just be like, and like I'd have another book, but I didn't have this book. And this is the one that I wanted. And so finally one day I think I just like asked somebody, and I was like, do you guys have this? And the lady or the guy or whoever helped me, they were like, oh yeah, we have it. It's just in the back. And so they went and they brought it to me, and I was just like, this is my book. Oh, I'm so happy. So happy. Love this book so much. Also, the cover is beautiful. I love this cover. And it's just like, it's simple, and it could work for like so many different books, but it's just, it's so pretty. I love it. I love it. The next book that I want to talk about is Four by Veronica Roth. I love this little collection of stories. So cute. I can't really remember what the stories are, but I remember that after I finished this, really loved it, and I wish I could remember what actually happened in it. I don't know why I can't, because I can remember like what happened in the previous books, but not this one. Don't know why. The next book that I have is A Short History of the Girl Next Door by Reck. I love this book so much. It's so good. The one thing that I dislike about this book is the cover. The next book that I have to talk about is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. One of my friends actually like texted me about this book like earlier, and I was just like reminded of how much I loved this book. And I can't wait for the sequel, which I know for sure there's definitely going to be a sequel, and I'm so excited. Woo! We're going to get a sequel from Hank. Whoop whoop. If you've yet to read this book, go read it. It's so good. It's so good. Also, the cover is just like so eye-catching and beautiful. Next book that I have to talk about is What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Silvera. And I haven't gotten a chance to talk about this book on my channel, but like, I love this book so much. I knew going into this book that it was going to be either a perfect sweet spot of both Becky and Adam, or it was going to be like mostly Becky or mostly Adam. But if it was that perfect sweet spot, it was just going to be pure gold. It was going to be the best thing ever, and it was that perfect balance. We had some nice Adam scenes that I was like, Adam totally contributed a lot to this, and I can just like, this is totally something that would go in one of his books. And then there were some points that I was like, this is a Becky moment, yes. And like literally there were sometimes that I was reading this and I was like, who has the keyboard? Give it back to the other person. Oh my gosh, I love this book. It was so fun. It was cute, and it was funny, and it was sweet, and it was sad at times. And there were some themes in this book that I wasn't expecting to see, but they were like good, nice, just really good themes. Also, there were a lot of musical references, and I went through like a really huge popular Broadway music phase, and like I still listen to like some Broadway things, right? But like I went through a phase where I listened to a lot of popular things, and I'm really happy for that phase because I wouldn't have gotten like half, not half, but like some of the jokes in here that like I laughed at, I feel like I wouldn't have been able to get or like completely understand, or I would have had to do some like Google searching if I hadn't like had that like mini period of time. So that was nice. If you want to know what musicals you should listen to before you read this book or while you're reading this book, I think that would be really interesting while you're reading it. But Dear Evan Hansen, Hamilton, and I think those are the two big ones that you want to listen to before, after, during, whatever you want to do. But those are the musicals. I feel like I've talked about that too long now. Moving on. The last book that I have loved this year, when I'm filming this, I think it's December 20th. I think it's December 20th. As of right now, this is the last book that I have just loved in 2018, and it's In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. I'm pretty sure that I included this in one of my book hauls. So this book is technically a thriller, and that was definitely something that I was like, oh, it's a thriller. Cool. But like, I don't read a lot of thrillers. It's been a while since I've read a book that I think has like marketed itself as like a thriller. And so like going into this book, I was like, oh, I'm gonna be scared, and I don't really know how I feel about that. I don't know, I'm just like, I'm really weird. I'm not the kind of person that like reads scary things or like watches scary things right before I go to bed, because I feel like I'll get nightmares, which is weird. So like I was trying to like read this throughout like the middle of the day, but I got to like this one point in this book that I was just like, no, this is too good. And so I read it like right before I went to sleep, and like I wasn't like scared or anything. And I think it's because this book isn't really a thriller. It's more so like a mystery. Like that's how it kind of felt to me. It felt more like mysterious, and like I was like, who, what, why? And you know, but another thing that I really, really loved about this book that wasn't a part of that aspect was like the characters. The characters were really good. I love me some good characters. If a book has good characters, I'm probably going to enjoy it more, even if the plot falls like flat. So like the characters in this were amazing, and I really want to read some more Ruth Ware. If you have some book recommendations by her, because I think she's written quite a few books, leave them in the comments down below, please. So those are all of the books that I have loved this year. I really thought that there would be more, but that like still feels like a ton of really good books that I've read this year. Let me know in the comments down below what good books you guys have read this year. Also, I feel like I should mention that I haven't done a video in so many months, and I am sorry. I'm getting rid of my posting schedule, by the way. And that doesn't mean that I'm just going to like be like, every time I post a video I'm gonna wait like 2 months and then post another one, because I don't plan on doing that. I want to upload every single week. That is something that I want to do. That's one of my goals for 2019. Let's see if I can try to do it. I don't know. We're currently on break right now, and I say this every single time that I have one of these like breaks. I'm like, I'm gonna start pre-filming and it's gonna be great and I'm never gonna miss an upload and da 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 da. And then usually like I'll pre-film like 1 or 2 videos, and then like nothing else will happen. So let's see if I can hold myself accountable. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, then you should totally click that red subscribe button down below. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video. Bye guys!